As kids head back to class, it's worth remembering half of the state's budget goes to our schools. And even though we spend less than every other state out there, still though, it's a lot of money that's spent. So to show exactly where that money goes, Deanie got down to the nitty-gritty of school spending. I'm very interested in this one, Deanie.
Well, according to the newest data, 84% of that student funding goes to salaries. When we reported that a few months ago, you asked us, is that teacher salaries or administrators? With some digging, we now have the breakdown.
I would say it's very likely that they pay themselves too much, yes.
So I would assume that administrators make the big bucks.
A lot of complaints about the teachers not getting paid what they should be getting paid.
Nearly everyone we heard from believes too much of our education money goes to pay administrators. We sat down with the school finance experts at the State Office of Education to pull apart salary stats. And here's what we found. Of the roughly $5,803 spent on each Utah student in school operation budgets, $4,379, or 76%, goes to teacher salaries. That includes aides, librarians, and counselors. $399, or 7%, goes to school administrators, like principals and office staff. $72, 1%, goes to general administrators, like superintendents and the school board. The rest goes to school operations and maintenance and transportation.
Didn't know that.
That's surprising.
Where it gets really interesting is when we compared Utah numbers to those across the country. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, Utah ranks last in spending per student, but we rank 6th in the nation for the percentage of our education budget spent on teacher salaries. We rank 39th for the percentage spent on administrators.
Do you think most people assume a lot of the money goes to administration?
We hear that frequently. We hear that, well, if you just cut back on administration, everything would be better. We're putting our limited resources where they really need to be put, and that is wherever possible, into classrooms, into instruction, into those type of programs that directly impact students within our school system.
But even after knowing the national comparisons, many people want more money directed to teachers.
I would say administrators are vital to the whole operation, but teachers need to be compensated for all their efforts in the classroom.
We went even further to show you the districts where Utah teachers make the most. Park City, Rich, Salt Lake, and Millard. Teachers make the least in charter schools. The median salary there, $35,500. Now compare the actual administrator salaries. We did that by calling each district. We found principal salaries are largely determined by school size and experience. And you can see principals at big high schools like Lone Peak and Bingham, they make more than principals in, say, Morgan or the head teacher at Grouse Creek. The same holds true with superintendents. In larger districts, salaries can top $200,000 compared to smaller districts where salaries range closer to $100,000. There you go. There's the breakdown. Dave, well, Mike?
Yeah, probably a lot of surprised people tonight as I saw those numbers. Very interesting breakdown, though, Deanie. Welcome back. If you are a parent with kids in school, I got a question for you. How's your checkbook looking these days? Now, I say that sarcastically as it's been an expensive few weeks for mom and dad as the kids head back to class, costing hundreds of dollars and sometimes even more than that. And Deanie's with us right now. And Deanie, you set out to ask the question and find out an answer to this one. So many people are asking, why are these fees so high?
Yeah, I hear this all the time. I'm sure you do too. Parents just can't believe how much it costs to register for school. Is it like this everywhere? If you're talking about school fees, the answer is no.
You fear a little bit all the costs that are associated with starting school again.
She paid the textbook fee along with the yearbook fee. The activity fee.
I don't even know what an activity fee is.
It's $30. Going down the class list from this Lone Peak High student, about every class, even Spanish, costs a fee. Add in the convenience fee, and she'll pay $237 for one of her 4 students.
I'm paying them all at once. It's all on the same credit card. If it's a bad time of year or if it's just a hardship in general, you start to resent it a little bit.
Family budgets and school budgets are equally tight.
It's just a way we subsidize public education in Utah. My understanding is that other states do not charge these fees at this level.
Legal experts for the State Office of Education acknowledge, even though districts follow procedures, fees impact families.
I think that most of that money is reasonably well spent. It's spent on things that are necessities.
Utah code requires local school boards to approve all fees, and districts must update their fee schedules annually. Every school board has complete autonomy to set the fees at what they deem necessary.
How that takes place could have 41 variations. We have 41 school districts.
School districts say fees keep up with the rising costs of materials, technology, and other things.
We're always concerned about the bottom line, not only for our schools, but for our families.
All districts clearly state that fees may be waived according to state regulations.
We try to make that as discreet as possible. It's really easy to obtain the form to apply for a fee waiver off the school website.
Most family budgets do take a significant hit this time of year, but they shouldn't face any surprise fees later in the year.
Once you've charged your fees or told your parents what the fees will be for the course or the class or the activity, you can't keep nickel and diming them.
Oh, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. We haven't included costs of extracurricular. Those can add hundreds more. And does this sound familiar? In many cases, the stated fees aren't really what you have to pay to play. Tomorrow we'll look at how some schools are skirting the law.
If you got a child involved in sports in school or other activities, you got to listen to this story. All this week we have been taking a closer look at the funding and the fees that parents face as we send our kids back to school. Now, we've heard from many who experienced sticker shock, you could say, when they paid for their child's extracurricular activities. And Deanie got a chance to investigate just how these fees are determined and whether or not they're fair. I'm sure a lot of parents out there are thinking, no, this isn't fair, but what did you find out?
We've heard from them. Well, Utah is a pay-to-play state, meaning that students who play extracurricular sports or activities are charged extra. But I discovered state law is based on this 1994 3rd District Court ruling that concludes extracurricular is integral to education, not extra. So schools can't exclude students based on the ability to pay. But as we found in this IN report, many times the cost to really play is much higher than the stated fees.
Second down and 50.
Another school year kicks off, filled with lots of activities and lots of fees.
Especially if you have more than one kid, but it's well worth it.
Now that you're in the group.
Many parents may agree, but the big question a lot of parents want answered: what are the real costs for extracurricular activities?
The optional part needs to be seriously addressed.
Hillary Pembroke is a proud football mom at Highland High School.
Football helmet, $55.
She understands it costs a lot of money to run a football program.
I also wanted to upgrade some of their equipment.
But as a single mom, she struggles every year to cover the fees.
I did not have the money. The principal let me work out a pay plan.
It's enough that it hurts.
And it's hurting some families to the point where they can't afford for their kids to play.
There are a lot of kids that don't get to participate, whether because they don't have enough money, they've got too many kids in the family that are also trying to participate.
Local school boards set the fees for all extracurricular activities.
The idea is that hopefully those participation fees that are paid can help cover the costs of that particular activity and sport and be self-sustaining.
There are rules that come into play on this field, and the same goes for the fees. Parents are supposed to be informed up front of all costs of these activities, but many say they don't know where the line's drawn. We looked at fee schedules from schools all over the state and found the fees on paper are significantly less than what's really coming out of parents' wallets.
A lot of times the fees that are being sent to the principal, which are being approved of by the board, are much, much smaller than what actually is being charged by a kid.
Like $800 for ballroom dance and trip, $150 for a Letterman sweater.
3 costumes for choir that each cost $200.
And then there are the so-called options, optional spirit packs, optional summer camps.
The state's saying it's clearly illegal to tell parents this is optional, when in fact, wink wink, it's not really optional.
And fundraisers.
I don't love it, but I try to be a sponsor and, help as much as I can.
The fundraising thing is a really big monster out there lurking that is a best friend of a school, and it is also the most difficult ethically to sort of navigate.
Deseret News sports reporter Amy Donaldson surveyed parents at 4A and 5A schools to find out what parents are really paying for football.
Parents are both the drivers of the cost, and they're both the victims of the cost.
Outside and we score!
I think coaches feel sort of held hostage by this situation as much as parents do, and I just wanted to have the conversation.
It's a conversation Hillary Pembroke would also like to see happen more often.
I think that if more people said something, that maybe something would be done.
It's something to think about, and we're hoping that at some point schools and districts and parents will be able to talk about what is really necessary in order to participate in these programs.
So here are the real costs of football Amy Donaldson found among the 5A, 4A, and Washington County 3A programs. Required, advertised, and waivable fees vary between $75 and $300. But the optional fees, which are unadvertised and unwaivable, go up to $830. And that is what has so many parents upset, yet not willing to talk about it.
Right, so it's optional fees, and those are things, there's an expectation there without question. Any parent I've spoke to about this same thing.
If you want to be involved, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.